In tonight's video, we're going to be covering something I've been requested for the past couple of weeks, which is getting into the production side of these videos, specifically the mixing and the mastering. So we're going to do that today. Now, I've been recording Tabla for over a decade now, and I really can't cover it all in just one video. So I'll start with some of the big takeaways that I've learned along this time, and then I'll also slowly later get into some of the finer details of how you can improve your recording quality. Now, in the description, I'm going to list all of the different equipment that I'm using, but for starters, these two mics in front of me are DPA 4011s, and right now I'm talking into a DPA 2011. Now, everyone always is wanting to know what microphone you're using, but I hardly see any comments ever asking about what interface that people are using. And the interface is actually just as important. Maybe not just as important, but it's the second most important thing in your audio quality. And I'm using an RME UFX. Now, because I've been recording for a good period of time, I've slowly upgraded and finally gotten to this gear. If you're just starting out, start with whatever you have and really refine your process. And another thing I'd suggest is really work on your playing quality quite a bit, because you'll really never be satisfied with any equipment unless the tabla playing that you're listening to you actually like. So do keep that in mind. A majority of this video will be screen recorded, so let's now get into that. Now, here we are in Logic Pro. This is the best audio recording software there is for Mac, as far as I know. And most of the features in this software we won't be using. It has a lot to do with creating beats and things like that, which we're not using. So we're just going to be focusing on how your audio quality is coming out in recordings. So this top channel is usually the channel that I talk into for the videos that I make. The mic that is up to my face usually is this channel. And these two right here are the Baya and Daya. Now, what I really want to cover in this video is why two microphones, and these are two microphones I'm using, why if you don't use it properly, it'll actually ruin your audio quality, specifically the bass in the tabla. So basically what's happening is when the audio is ruined, it's because these tracks are misaligned. These are, of course, sine waves, and they have to be aligned, meaning if this wave is going up, it must be also going up here at the same time. Now, I have a small graphic that I found that I believe can illustrate this well. Here, let's look at it. So this is what you want. Both tracks aligned. When this wave is going up, this one is as well. But usually when you just set up mics and then you walk away, that doesn't happen. You have to listen to how it sounds. Most likely you're getting this, which is when one track is going up, the other is actually going down. And these are canceling each other out. If you just had a track of one wave going up and one going down the whole time, every wave, you'd actually have no sound. But in this case, you're not going to get no sound. You're just going to get no bias sound mostly. So that's one pretty big issue that I faced for a long time. And I had basically no idea on how to fix that. So let me get into what I do to fix that. This is now my mixer that I'm looking at. This is the vocal channel, so we'll not really focus on that. This is a plugin by Waves. And Waves is basically one of the best plugin sources that I've used so far. Many people will say that there's better in the market, but I've used this for probably over a decade now. So this is what I'm familiar with. So I have one Waves plugin running on both channels. And what this plugin lets you do is there's actually a delay that I've set on this. and the delay is just zero point 0.1 of a millisecond, so hardly audible. But this basically lets you make sure that these two are in phase. This one, both these channels have a slight delay, and you're going to have to use this and do it by ear, and do it until you hear a good bias sound in these two channels. So that's basically, if there's one takeaway of this video, is that when you're recording tabla with two microphones, you must adjust this delay. And there's many ways to do it. You don't just have to use a Waves plugin, but you must adjust it and listen to what is giving you the most bass sound. So now on these channels, I do have a few plugins running. I have an EQ for the Baya, and on here, of course, I mainly want bass. And for the highs, I've cut those out because I want to focus on just doing my effects on the bass. So I have that here. And another thing I'd like to add is another issue of this phase cancellation that I talked about is one of the biggest challenges I've faced when it's come to mixing and editing tabla videos is that on my speakers at home, which have subwoofers, I can hear my Baya perfectly. But I know for a large portion, based on the YouTube analytics, that many of you all are listening to it on your phone speakers, and iPhone and Android speakers just can't play that deep Baya sound. So that's been something I've focused on quite a bit. So this right here is a great plugin. I can make an entire video just on this. It's called Max Bass, and this is what I use for the Baya to really get that full sound that usually, and it should be audible as well, even on phone speakers. And now the advantage of using two microphones is this effect I'm only applying just on the Baya. So it wouldn't sound very good on the Daya as well. So this effect is running there, and the frequency is 170 here. And I've done some research, and I know the iPhone speaker doesn't play anything above 140. So I make sure to boost around 170 to make that audible. So that's right there. And of course, I'm running a limiter as well to make sure it's not coming out too loud, because one thing you'll notice here in any recording, you don't want it going into the red. The red is when you start losing information. Now, I have made a mistake maybe in a video or two where it's gone into the red, but that's, for the most part, that's not how you want to record audio. You're losing all your basically data that you're sending in past that point. It's the digital limit of audio recording. And I have heard some people record audio where it's just past the red the whole time, or it stays in the red. That's not what you want. And right here, where it's slightly touching the red, we'll get to that portion. That's for mastering, but we won't be covering that just now. So this now is the effects I have on the Daya. Of course, I showed you a slight delay here. And this is a plugin actually for vocals. It's called RVox, because the Daya does make, if you play it right, you want the Daya to sing. So a little bit of compression on it, a little EQ, just some certain portions, some certain sounds, na, tin, tun, things like that. And also a limiter on this channel so it's not coming too loud. Then, of course, I have them run into here, which is a bit of reverb, which I like because, sorry, not just reverb, a bit of reverb and a bit of a doubler as well. Basically, what I find is if you just record tabla on its own, it sounds a bit empty. So I try to fill that space with just a bit of reverb. And what else? So a bit of reverb. Yes, Smack Attack. This is an interesting plugin. Now, I do want my tabla to sound soothing and all that, but it is a drum at the end of the day, and I want it to have attack. So this is me kind of adding a bit more attack back into the sound. So, it sounds punchy, basically. That's what I'm looking for. And that's basically most of the plugins on the Baya and Daya. And then it goes out to the master channel. Here, I'm running it into this amplifier called Shep 73. This is fantastic. This is all part of a Waves plugin bundle. I believe they have different subscriptions. So this just sounds fantastic. I believe this is like a vintage amp that they're emulating, and it sounds very clean to me. So that's good. This is another vintage amp that I also love the sound of. Gives you a bit more low end, a bit more bass. A limiter here on the top end, meaning the final limiter. So when it comes out, it's not too loud. I'm not losing any signal. So there's that. And there's also this, which is sound ID reference. This is currently turned off, but this is one of the most important plugins that I have, and you always want to keep this last. Another thing is that when you're recording, you want to know exactly how your recording will sound to everyone. So basically, this right here lets me listen to how it'll sound on an iPhone, how it'll sound on your car speakers, any sort of thing. This gives me like the average, so I know how to edit it. Otherwise, different speakers will give you vastly different sounds. So this is one of the best plugins so I can get an idea of what it sounds like on different speakers. And of course, I have all these plugins running on my voice as well. This is not the usual setup most people use. Just some basics with this amp again to clean it up a little bit. Some noise reduction, the Sheps that I just showed, and things like that. A bit more for clarity as well, making sure that my room sounds don't affect it. Now, one thing I will add is when it comes to voice, there's a lot of tutorials, and it's pretty straightforward how you can get good vocal quality. That's all over YouTube. What isn't too common is this Baya and Daya, how to process those. So if y'all want later in other videos, I can go into more depth on how I EQ them, how I, add compression, things like that, why I picked these. This is just more of a general overview, but that should to some degree explain how I'm mixing this audio. Another thing is once I'm done, basically I export from here and then I put it into my video editing software. This software doesn't do video, of course. So that's usually my process on how I record my audio. And that is a mixing and mastering tutorial. There'll be more like this coming maybe every week, but I hope you all have a better understanding on why two microphones may not be always improving your audio quality when it comes to tabla playing. And feel free to comment below any questions you may have. Join our Discord. Thank you.